Today in cannabis news, proposals move through the California and Nevada state legislatures seeking to allow for the building of cannabis consumption lounges. A new poll reveals the differences in cannabis legalization support among religious and non-religious people. And a new federal analysis reveals that consumption and use has not significantly changed since U.S. states have legalized cannabis. It's Tuesday, June 1st, and this is your TRICHOMES Morning Buzz.
Broadcasting live from the TRICHOMES.com studios in Southern California, it's time for your Morning Buzz. We bring you late-breaking news that keeps you up to date with what's happening in the cannabis industry.
First up, the Nevada State Assembly passed a proposal to allow for cannabis consumption lounges, while a proposal in California that would enable municipal governments to authorize registered cannabis lounges to serve cannabis-free cuisine and beverages also passed the state assembly. Assemblyman Steve Yeager's bill passed the legislative body with a 29-12 vote. It would establish two new types of cannabis licensing in Nevada. The first would be for retail cannabis consumption lounges, while the second would be for independent cannabis consumption lounges. The existing retailers may petition for the previous permit and offer items that adults of at least 21 years could enjoy on the premises. Independent lounges would not be allowed to sell cannabis themselves. Instead, cannabis items would have to be brought to customers from a third party. Independent operators, on the other hand, may petition to officials to sell cannabis they grow themselves or engage into an agreement with a recreational cannabis store to sell their goods. Companies that meet the criteria for social equity candidates would pay a lower fee. California's proposal says the bill would allow a local government to grant approval to operate consumption cafes or lounges where adults could consume cannabis and cannabis products, in addition to the existing authorization for consumption in licensed retail settings. Both bills are now on their way to their respective state senates.
Next up, according to a new survey assessment from the Pew Research Center, religious persons are much less inclined to support cannabis legalization than atheists and non-religious individuals. According to Pew's most recent nationwide poll, 60% of Americans support both medical and recreational cannabis legalization. A total of 91% believe it should be allowed for either medical or recreational use. Generally, religiously associated persons are less likely to support repealing prohibitive cannabis legislation, though a 54% majority say that they still support it. At 44%, white evangelical Protestants are the least probable advocates for recreational legalization, while at 63%, black Protestants are the most probable supporters. Overall, most Catholics, 53%, favor cannabis legalization, while white Catholics are more likely to favor the legislative reform than Hispanic Catholics. 76% of non-religious persons, on the other hand, favor the legalization of both recreational and medical cannabis. Atheists, agnostics, and those who say they believe in nothing in particular account for 88%, 86%, and 70% respectively. Only 1% of agnostics believe that cannabis should remain fully prohibited.
And last up, a new federal analysis refutes the prohibitive notion that U.S. states legalizing cannabis leads to greater youth consumption. The National Center for Education Statistics, or NCES, of the United States Department of Education assessed youth polls of high school pupils between 2009 and 2019, asserting that there was no measurable difference in the number of those who confirmed ingesting cannabis at least once in the previous 30 days. According to the analysis, which is based on statistics from the Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance System, availability held steady over that time span, with no numerically substantial variations in the percentage of students who report they've been provided illegal substances in the last 30 days on school property. For context, in 2009, there were no legal recreational cannabis industries in the U.S., and 21% of high schoolers said they had used it in the previous 30 days. In Colorado, the first legal cannabis sales in 2014, and 5 years later, 22% of teenagers claimed they had consumed cannabis lately. The largest portion of recorded previous 30-day consumption happened in 2011, prior to any U.S. state legalizing recreational cannabis. NCES also reported that there is no measurable difference between 2009 and 2019 in the percentage of students who reported that illegal drugs were made available to them on school property.
That was today's Buzz. Thanks for listening. For more cannabis news and insights from industry professionals and a place to discuss these stories and others, visit trichomes.com.
And be sure to catch up with all of our other cannabis industry-related podcasts like Hash It Out, Careers in Cannabis, or the International Cannabis Conversation, wherever you get your podcasts. For TRICHOMES.com, I'm David Fortin.
And I'm Devin Liao. Happy Tuesday.